Hi, and welcome to Rock Rose. We're in our 17th year now, and this year we have a wonderful grant from the California Arts Council, Cultural Pathways. And this particular session today, we are hosting some extraordinary musicians. They're going to explain what they're all about, but they really warrant having them today as part of our master class for musicians and bands. So, without further ado, groove session.
All right.
So put up it so you can go where you want to go. I've been large enough for our life to flow. It's strong for all to gleam. You gotta give us such a vision, every sort of dream. I bring it to all travelers for a lifetime to come down. Baby, I'm a businessman. She said that's alright. When you gonna come back? I've been waiting for you to know. She says she's waiting for me. I'm waiting for you to know. I need you to just hold it together, hold it together. I'm coming home. Hold it together, hold it together, hold it together. Hold it together. My favorite car says she seen me just the other day. Keeps trying to tell me sugar, you can't keep going away. I got to go, you know I got things to do. You see places to be. I know you're really me, but all you got is holla, 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 my baby. I swear. Actually, I made it across the day, back to the holiday. Gonna see her soon. She knows she'll see me soon. I can't wait. My love. Hold it together. Hold it together. I'm coming home. Hold it together, hold it together, now, hold it together. Talking about hard times when you ain't around. Sensual frustration all over this whole town. Don't put your together, hold it together. She said, hold it. I know you just caught a little traffic, that's all. Hold it together, hold it together, hold it together, hold it together. to see you again. Come on, let's go. Ooh, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. There's so much to life, and there's so much to see. Slow down, don't forget to breathe. Today is hello, yesterday farewell, and July tomorrow can be heaven or maybe hell. So look at now with expectation and envision the moments with exploration. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Goodbye, Cause Wednesday comes and Wednesday goes. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Ooh, come on, let's go. Gotta go, I got to go. Come on, let's go. Let's go get lost. Come on, let's go. Lost with you now. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Come on, let's go.
All right, thank you very much. It's Manny Sanchez, and I play some drums and do a little bit of singing. I'm Ronnie Sanchez. We're brothers.
And my name is Sarvin, like Marvin with an S.
And we're also brothers.
We're our brothers. We're our brothers. We've been playing together for, this will be 10 years now.
Coming up in 10 years, yeah.
And you guys have some roots here. This is one of their first gigs here.
Our very
This building,
first,
right?
yes, our very first gig, 17 years ago, in that corner right there. My brother and I, and then our cousin, and that was our first band. And so the Rock Rose and Rosa Maria, our aunt, has been very influential and supportive of always what we wanted to do and our passion. But of course, the arts and music, and then just family and having a great support system, which we think is so key. So to be here at the Rock Rose it's full circle because this is exactly where we started. This is the ground floor right here for us, the Rock Rose. So thank you so much for having us, Jose Maria. I'd like to thank you. And yeah, get right into it.
Yeah, let's sit down. Let's get comfy.
Before and after shows, but from just our peers, a lot of other bands that we perform with, but a lot of really young bands that are wanting to, whether it was, tour or get away or go somewhere or distribution deal or creating fans or just liking each other and staying in love and all those fun things, the questions that we would get asked that it was like, yeah, it just comes with time. And I was like, well,
our learning curve is.
And a lot of it is time, as we all, you guys know. And so it's a passion, it's a love, but we wrote down some stuff that we thought was just stuff that is definitely we've come across, but then was helpful to us. But I think today, being that you guys aren't first timers or new kids on the block, you guys are working musicians and artists, and so I think a lot of this is stuff that you guys are like, yeah, duh, who doesn't know this? But
well, just going back to the history of us, we've been touring nationally for close to 7 years now. We have 5 albums out, or a 5th album in the works. At one point we were doing close to 200 shows a year, on the road up to 3 months, 2 to 3 months at a time. And with that being said, it's not like we have the magic recipe to be successful, and it's all been trial and error for us. But hopefully, we can have some insight to any questions you guys might have towards moving forward and staying in it and staying focused.
Yeah, and then finding on those days where you're like, what the hell,
what am I doing?
and or you're scrambling to pay for something or get something taken care of on time, and then it always works out. It really does. It truly does. But for the most part, as long as you're moving forward and not looking too far back there. But yeah. We're pretty fortunate to have each other.
Support system, along with not just us, but our family, our girlfriends, everyone's on board with the madness, the music madness.
So I have a question. You were talking about you guys have been together for 10 years, and now here you are. Can you kind of take us a little bit through the arc of how, like, where you started, and then how long did it take to get to the next step?
Right.
And where you guys are up to where you are now.
And that's for us. It's starting out the first year of performing together. We were, performing, of course, other people's music. You start out with standards and a lot. I mean, for us, I think our main book at the time, our main guy we were covering was Herbie Hancock, which was like, it was great.
Well, we were an all instrumental band, none of us sang, so these mics in front of us were they were non-existent,
Hello. Yeah, so at that time when we were starting out, the band Groove Session was an instrumental band, and we loved covering things like the Meters and Herbie Hancock, or other
Schofield.
Yeah, a lot of different jazz fusion influence. But then after the first year, we said, let's start to write. Let's start getting together and really sitting down and taking some time to write. And then we started doing that, and so the first batch, our first album, was an instrumental album.
That was released in 2008. It was called Fine Burrito, and it was all just us, just trying out different ideas. Really, feeling each other out because we had never written together, and so we were very open to just any ideas that we had, and just laid it out on the table with, and it was.
Yeah, because at that time it wasn't like we weren't even sure what
sound we were
or
going
genre or what is the group. We were doing that like we were asking ourselves those questions. What is our sound? What do we stand for? What are the things that really are the floor where do we want to go with this? And so we had fun with that album, and then from there we started to write, and at that time. With the political climate at the time, it was right before, it was like the last years of Bush, but then it was like Obama, and we could see the light, and we're like, this is cool, and we just, joined the movement for change, and then it was, so a lot of our writing at that time was about that, and then but keeping it positive, because it was easy for us. We found ourselves easy to get wrapped up in the negative, which I mean that's forever and always. But it's like we didn't want to write songs that were just like F the prez or this or that or it kind of this hard crazy stance. It was like we wanted to have a serious message, but have it be positive, have it be where it's something that we wanted people to always leave the show feeling good, feeling better than when they came. That was something that was key. And so as we started to write, we found that our songs were kind of taking that on, and then we just said that should be part of our brand, overall brand, like we're not going to just do a real positive album and then the rest of it's like, So I was like, well, I think that's part of the brand. And so slowly the brand started to form. And we've been very fortunate too, right off the bat. Our cousin, Dan Colkin, is a very talented artist and graphic designer. He's done all of our album artwork. And so he's been a huge influence, or not just a huge partner with us and as far as putting that out there, visually what the brand is, as well as kind of the overall feel. And so, kind of just coming through the years, it's been, went from instrumental to a couple of lyrical songs and playing just locally. We grew up in the Inland Empire, so around that area, Pomona, Claremont, and then Riverside, and then we branched out, went to Orange County, we're like, man, that's crazy.
So far.
So far, that's Orange County. And you take a trip to LA and you play a show in LA, and you're like, man, that was crazy, that was far. And then you're really thinking like, geez, we're in the car forever. And then you really start to think about it, and you're like, well, we just drove a couple of miles, guys. If this is what we want to do, we better get used to being in the car, get used to being around each other. And so we just started with small circles. And I always think of it like small circles where we would do, we did a trip to Santa Cruz.
That was 2009, 10?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of our first taste of touring, I guess.
Playing out of your own backyard.
Playing out of our own, region, Southern California, getting into the more central area. And just being on the road and learning how to deal with the road and getting enough sleep, not staying up so late, and learning how to schlepping gear back and forth, and just getting used to that. That was a fun experience. That was 2010, and then that's when we released our second album, which Manny said, we started writing more lyrically, and then we started noticing we were falling into the jam scene with the style of music we were playing, and so we kind of really capitalized on figuring out what other bands maybe are in the same area that we could connect with and play co-bills with and do shows, and then started noticing where we are getting these followings and
where those people
lived at, and then maybe play in those cities or those neighboring cities, and so Orange County was a big one for us.
Yeah, because we would notice people at shows, and they would come to a couple shows in a row, and we're like, where do you live? What city do you live in? And they would tell us, and it's like, well, I bet you'd come if we booked a show in your area, and then just asking who's some of the bands that are more in your area, and of course all that, and there's just so much of that legwork where it is, you find out about a region that maybe you want to perform at, but then you got to go to the venue, and then you got to make sure, of course, that the venue caters to your genre, or just what's their busy nights, or do you have to bring in other support, or a great local band, or and all that fun stuff, or create your own bill. And so when we recognized that the jam scene, which I think what we liked right off the bat with it was that it wasn't one style of music, one genre, it was a lot of different things. We didn't grow up necessarily listening to the Grateful Dead at all, but we saw how the community and how they treat each other was it like overlapped and went into all of it, kind of the jam scene, and we liked that it wasn't one genre necessarily. But then we find ourselves wanting to not be called a jam band. We want to be a band that jams. We thought that just sounded cool, It was like, jam bands are cool, dude, but we're a band that jams. Because a lot of our favorite bands, that's how we looked at them. It's a great band. Yeah, they jam when they play live, but that was a little transition. That was a good thing for us, I think. Besides the tie-dye, I don't know how jammy we can be.
I don't really wear tie-dye, dude.
You You got a tie-dye shirt.
One tie-dye shirt. It's in the back of the bun.
What were some of the things you guys started writing about when you started, making more lyrics for your music?
Early on, it was anything from silliness, kind of like goes in between your friends, kind of like an inside joke. Maybe it's like even something that just sounds funny when you say it, because like you've got a great groove. You start whether it's guitar or the bass and drums, or you like the groove. Maybe a melody comes to your head, but you don't know exactly what the words are, but you like the melody. It's just catchy. And then it's like, for us in the early days, and even still now, but we would be like, okay, what does that sound like we're trying to say? and then it was, for instance, our second album was called The Memoirs of Niwa. And Niwa, we had a dinner together, and then after dinner we had rehearsal. And then Niwa was a sushi restaurant that we used to like to go to eat at. And so we came home, and we're jamming, and Ronnie starts his bass line. It's like, dude, that's funky. And get in it, and we're going and grooving, and then we just started saying, and we're like, I don't know.
What is
I don't
that
understand.
sound like?
I don't understand. And then it was, hey, Niwa? Is it Niwa? We're trying to say Niwa? Is that what we're
We
thinking?
just ate
And
there.
then from there, Niwa became a character. Then the character had a story.
He had
and
his
a
own
history,
memoirs
and his memoirs, and the whole album that was like.
So we
the birth of
definitely we like to go
We
with
stretched
we like to stretch
Before
things out.
that, there was no lyrics, and we wrote a whole album just on a concept without any lyrics. No one would really know if they listened to the album. It was story after story of each one, because we had to have that story in our head visually to kind of make the emotions of the song. So we were still thinking of the concept, but
I
there
guess-
was no lyrics there.
I guess that's a good point. I forgot to mention with the first album, we made it into a concept album, and so every song ties into a story, and so it's a complete story, and so it was a tall order for a first album. We saw it as a comic book.
We're all
really,
on the same page.
we really wanted it as a comic book where we just thought it'd be just something really, really cool, sonically, but then the content it just started to then, like love songs wasn't something that just came natural. It felt weird.
Our dad.
I was just gonna say, going back to some of our first lyrics were actually poems by, Ron right here, and so he would just give it to us and be like, or we'd read them and be like, hey, that's kind of like a chorus, that could be a chorus, and we'll kind of rework the poem into the song, and then we'd come in to rehearsal and be like, hey, check it out.
And he'd be like,
That's cool.
And
So
'cause-
some of our, to have an outside writer, is a kind of a thing that I've seen a lot of bands do.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's all the pop stars, tons of them don't write their own songs.
well, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, on that level. But yeah, so if you don't have inspiration, or you can't seem like you get, you hit somebody up, be like, hey, you're good with words, maybe help us out, and maybe I could write a melody to it, and something like that.
And we love poetry. I always have, but then just there's so many great poets out there, and so it is something that was like, let's not try to beat ourselves up too much, try to make this sound cool, because it's like sonically, let's work on the music, and I feel like lyrically it'll come in this, as long as you're talking with people, and we've been that is very fortunate for us that we didn't have to go too far,
Yeah.
Pops was right there, but it was like it's a lot of tunes, and then in the last couple of years, we just he'll sit in on writing sessions, or we'll say we're like kind of thinking of a concept, like the song "Let's Go" that we did on the cigar box.
And then we'll go back and forth, and it'll just spark ideas between each other. And Manny will have a line already going, and then he'll finish it, or I have a line going, and then Manny will finish it.
Yeah, just because sometimes I feel like finding the words is maybe like the hardest thing to say. As a filmmaker, as a visual artist, I can see how I want something lit or what I want to show with the camera. But having that message,
Yeah.
I feel like that's always kind of like the trickiest thing. And I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if it was like if music came first or if it was an idea that kind of came first, and then
for
you
us,
try to match.
for us, it was always music first.
Yeah.
It was always the music first, because that was our strong
Yeah.
suit. We were easily writing grooves and progressions and all that stuff, and then an idea would come about, and then maybe we could like, hey, that would kind of work with this groove that we had.
A month later.
month later, or something like that.
As sometimes it takes a month.
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
but it
Yeah.
just takes practice writing,
Yeah.
and we continue to write and try to write, and songs are getting better and practicing.
I think that was the key
That's-
thing that we really liked. I mean, we loved about each other right away was that we all wanted to write, and we were.
Absolutely.
It was like, the more
Yeah.
the more we can get together and write, the better.
And
you
we're
know?
leaving more space for that vocal too. We were filling up all the gaps for a
Yeah, 'cause-
while.
And yeah, you're gonna write bad songs. You know,
Yeah.
everybody does, and so it's like all about getting those bad songs out so that the better stuff comes through.
And then like for us, what we've done on more than like 5 or 6 different songs. That's been very helpful, and it's cool to get perspective from people who have heard different versions. But we'll just change a version of a song. You know, it might start out as a ballad, and then we do it like that for a while, and it's cool. We even record it like that, and then we want to perform it live. And you know, our live show has a lot of energy, and so it's like it's hard to sometimes, depending on the room and all those things, it's hard to bring some of those songs out when the room's and everyone's just like ah.
Yeah.
You know, but you
Yeah.
still want to bring it down because that's important in your full show. But it's like we're not gonna play this song. It's too. So then we were like, well, let's make it maybe an upbeat reggae song, and then like try to change the groove of songs. And we found that it worked for us, and so we've done that
Yeah.
with more than a handful of songs. That it was like we're not playing it, so maybe we should just change
Rewrite
it,
it,
rewrite it a little bit,
I guess you have to
give
be
it a haircut.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess you have to be pretty improvisational, which I'm sure you guys are. You just pick up a guitar, start beating the drum, and it can kind of change.
Well, it takes like we'll have to rehearse it because like live or
If we've never done it, and then it's like, let's try it reggae.
Yeah.
One or two
Yeah,
times.
like
it
maybe-
might work. It
Yeah.
might work.
Let's play real jazzy like, or let's play more bluegrass like, or let's play like with a Latin beat or something. Let's just
Same
you know,
song,
try to-
but
Same song, you know, just try
Yeah.
it differently. See
with
if it
more of a
works.
funk upbeat funk beat. So, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
And I think that's something that we always talk about. Like, and well, we've been fortunate when we write with others too. Is that if you have an idea, at least try it. You know, it's worth a shot. Worst thing could be that you try it and then everyone agrees. I wasn't
Might
feeling
not
it.
sound good in your head. It might sound good out.
That too. Yeah, it doesn't sound good in your head, but then you try it and something about it just felt right, or that was that's where the song needed to go. And so, you know, it's always like just throw the ideas out there and don't shoot them down before you even give it a try. You know, I think that goes without saying. But sometimes in a group setting, somebody can just have the reins and like, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe
my-
in your band,
yeah,
it's
this
like,
is my song.
well, I thought we
My
were
song.
playing together. You know, I think, you know, like growing up playing sports, always felt the need for team and that not one person needing to be the one, you know, that sort of thing, or needing all that. It really does take a team or a village, and so for us, it's always been like, you know, be able to hand the ball over or pass it without feeling like, you know, look at me sort of thing,
Yeah.
because it's the one that you want to be. The
About the
is the
audience.
music. It's the
Yeah.
audience, and then that energy. We're always, for us, the shows, especially live shows, it's always about energy and just being able to volley it back and forth, you know, and just get that couple good smiles could light up the room on both sides. Of course, when you see a band and you could tell they're having fun, then it becomes contagious right away.
We
So
always
that-
think about the eye contact and
And then something we've
Looking at
always
each other.
enjoyed, yeah, is
Yeah.
being in a band. You know, not just being these hired guys. I mean, that not to talk down about.
we have
that,
a
because
lot of
that's-
friends that
We
are.
have a lot of friends that freelance. I freelance sometimes too when we're not working. But it is that it's like you go into someone else's, you know, music, and you know, I've had them say like, I don't want you to play it like, I want you to play it like the album, you know. And it's just like, oh, okay, well,
no one
okay,
else
you're
tells
hiring
me
That's
me,
cool,
that's
yeah.
cool, you know.
You got
this
it.
is your song. You're doing
You
it.
got
This is your song. So, but yeah, we've always just enjoyed being able to be a little bit more free. This is our music. This is our baby. This is, you know, we could comb our baby's hair however we want. It doesn't have to be slicked back all the time.
I like to just leave home with a bedhead sometimes.
We heard that analogy a long time ago. We went to a storage unit and we watched a band play in their storage, and we all went. It was us three and another
We were
couple
still in high
friends.
school at that time.
Yeah, and the bass player, he was a great bass player, and he told us like just a metaphor for thinking about your songs as it's a group of, it's like a family. It's your kids, and each one you gotta treat this one this way, this one this way, and you gotta shine the light on them each and kind of put them out there. And
don't forget about them and send them to the wasteland.
Yeah. Play them like you like them.
What have been some of like your shows earlier? What I don't know. What some of your show highlights that you've had recently or in the past? What experiences have you had playing in front of people?
I mean, some of the artists that we've opened up for and some have been our best shows. You know, we've opened up for George Clinton and P Funk. We've opened up for Little Feat. We've opened at the Coach House.
Los Lobos.
Los Lobos recently, up in Big Bear, at the end of last year and the beginning of last year, kind of bookend our year. It was really nice.
Dumpster Funk.
Dumpster Funk, some of them, yeah.
Yeah,
Ivan Neville, Aaron Neville brothers.
especially in the very beginning. Well, in the early years when we were first we're getting opening acts or opening up for some of the artists. A lot of New Orleans, the New Orleans funk scene. You know, like so Stanton Moore and Trio or Leo Nocentelli of the Meters. But for like a highlight, personally, I think for all of us, but we got to have Leo Nocentelli of the Meters sit in with us at the Mint in Los Angeles, and
We did Sissy Strut.
and just to do Sissy Strut and
With the guy
Leo,
who wrote it, you know. it's
and
like-
when we rehearsed it,
Yeah.
he's like, we got to have a rehearsal, you know. I was like, okay, and then he looks at us right before we're gonna rehearse, and he goes, no, I'm sure you guys think you know it, because you know it's a standard. But and he goes, looks at Ronnie and he goes, let me see how you
It
do
was
it.
all up to me.
Yeah, he goes, I want to see how you do it. And I just felt like I saw this light just go on Ronnie. And
I
he's
was like, oh man, I might be doing it wrong. I did about 6 extra notes than what
yeah, he goes,
what it was.
he wasn't even
I'm
done
like-
with the line. He goes, nope.
I went do, and he's like, no, it's not. Do. No.
It's like, yeah.
Do.
But he said it's the notes that aren't there that make it funky, and
You hear them.
it's always that. And it's like, and then you just heard. Yeah, he's like, you're just hearing what you think you want to hear. He's like, and then he did it, and
It
then
was so cool.
the light went on, and then for us,
That's what it
when we
is.
performed
Space.
that weekend, watching him up there, and then at one point him and Sarg were going back and forth, and he smiled and. Very serious. He's got a great sense of humor, but he's pretty serious on stage, and he just got a big smile. And I was like, "We got him. We got him."
Yeah.
So that was definitely a highlight, just because
For sure.
it was someone that, especially when we first started, those were some of our standards. Those
He
were
set
our
up his
standards.
amp right in front of me. And it was just, it was just blaring. It's like, oh my gosh.
I think for sure for those experiences, and then one other one would be just there's a songwriting festival that we've taken part in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. It's put on by Pat McDonald, was in the band called Timbuk 3. It's a band from the 80s that wrote songs like Future So Bright, but he's also a really great friend with Jackson Brown, and so they've been ghostwriters on a lot of stuff. And I don't know the name of the castle. I don't know how the full story goes. It's a very long story. But basically in the 80s, Jackson and a bunch of other different artists were invited to this castle in England, and they were there for like 3 or 4 months. And a guy put them in there all together, and they wrote, and they wrote songs for everybody. And so a lot of the hits and they were ghostwriters. They got zero credit, and it was just this guy, and I forget what label it is, but they wrote a lot of songs. And then Pat went on to do his own thing. And then about 10 years ago, because he's from Wisconsin, he's a Wisconsin guy, and in a little small town, they were going to tear down a bridge. And he thought, he's always been an activist in the town, and it's pretty, it's a little liberal, but it's a pretty conservative town. And he's like the other one. He's always throwing the punches, leading the charge, speaking for folks that don't have a voice, which is great. And he said, you know what, they're not tearing this bridge down. It's one of the last steel bridges in the Midwest. It's one of 3 left in the United States, I think, or something at that time. I think it's now the last one. And so he decided, let's raise some money, let's raise some awareness, and let's bring some people here to this town. And so he called upon old Jackson, and so Jackson Brown, which that was helpful, very helpful. But so what they did was for a week,
That's why it's the last one still.
That is, it's the truth though, because they rolled their sleeves up, and what was great was he took the concept of the castle, and he invited musicians throughout the country, some from out of the country, but mostly throughout the United States, but from every corner. So there's different, because he spent time in Austin, you know, and then he lived in different areas, and so he called upon like a Seattle crew and the New York people, and we were part of the California people, which Kim Manning, who's a Los Angeles resident, she introduced it. She used to be in George Clinton P-Funk. She was the roller girl. Kim was part of the festival, and that's who brought us in. And so we were part of the LA folks that went to that. And going out there, you go for a week long, you meet people, strangers, but only for that first, you know, handshake. And all of a sudden, then what you do is you get in a big group together. We spin a bottle, and the bottle chooses who it chooses, and you get in groups of 3 to 4, and it's anybody from, of course, guitar players to lyricists, vocalists, drummers, of course, any instrument, and you get together, and the bottle chooses who it chooses. And then you write a song about a bridge and saving, like, it doesn't have to be about saving the bridge, but you could do
the bridge.
but it was saving the bridge, but metaphors, and it just got crazy, like, as the years, because we hopped in it, like, the 5th year?
Fourth or fifth year.
Yeah, and so it was already,
The bridge was already saved.
the bridge was saved, but the concepts were insane. It was like, whoa.
And so you did that for 4 days. 4 days of spinning the bottles, and then even you'd write songs when you're done writing your first song.
Yeah, you weren't.
You meet up with like, oh hey, are you doing anything right now? Let's write a song.
Let's write a
you know?
song. I
Yeah,
got an
let's write another
idea.
song.
Or like if you're like, oh, we need a squeeze box. Let's go ask Carly. She's great. And then we just sit there and so those juices flowing. It was like summer camp for
And yeah,
adults,
and
you
then
know. I was like,
that's
yeah.
Where are you at when you're doing that? It's a
Oh, good question. We're in it's a Holiday Music Motel, which is an old, renovated late 50s motel. And so it's only got about
Maybe 20, 30 rooms.
30 rooms
Yeah.
in it, and it's commandeered completely by musicians.
And then there's recording studios that are set up in the rooms.
Yes.
So what happens is you write a song, then you sign up for the recording studio. You go
That
in.
night.
The engineers are crazy. They stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning
Very,
recording.
one take is preferred.
You know,
Of
Of course.
Yeah.
One take. How many takes?
It's like practice your song.
Yeah, but I think through that's been a huge influence, and well, it's been great for us as songwriters, but then as musicians, and then networking, and I think overall that's something that just we'll have forever, and like daily I either meet somebody that somehow was connected to that, or I'm reminded of a story, and then it's just those friendships that we've been able to make, because since everybody's coming to this one place from all over the country, when you tour and you're performing or you're just home, of course being in Los Angeles, all those bands or artists want to come to LA at one point. They're like, oh, I'm coming to LA this weekend, I'm going to be there this week. And then so it's a good chance to catch up and just, you know, reconnect. And so that has definitely been one of our biggest, probably our faves, just overall. We're headed back there this summer, so that should be great.
You know, you remind me that when you were beginning, I think what I was so happy about was that you guys learned to be brave from a very young age.
Thank you.
Could you elaborate on what that was and what it was, how it affected you? Because I see it coming full circle, and when I heard you were at this festival, it made so much sense that there was no issue, that you guys could take it on.
It was nerve-wracking. There was a chance it could be
And
really hard.
I'm asking you because I know there are a lot of people who perform, whether they're younger or older. It's that fearlessness and just going for it, just doing it.
Well, just to start that off, I think the first step is to take the initiative, like you guys are here today, and seeking out, you know, like, how do I move forward with my music? How do I move forward with my art and become a working musician, you know? And so just taking the initiative by coming and seeing it, being part of this music clinic is already the first step. And for us, just growing up, we started at a really young age. Maybe, you know, I've been playing since I was 4, but playing in bars since I was 16. And then just, so the fearlessness, not being afraid to just try things once. And then, of course, family was huge support, so we were able to kind of, maybe not work in a sense, but like just have the support behind us to push us a little further out there. Because, you know, when we did that Steelbridge festival. It was in Wisconsin, and we literally had no contacts in between California and Wisconsin. So we were like, okay, so we have to drive 2,000 miles to this thing.
In
So
a day, and not a very long time.
30 hours straight. Okay, let's just do it.
But I remember like having the jams here, and I was barely first learning bass.
That's what I was asking.
And just being invited to get up and having the patience. Everyone had the patience to kind of deal with us young musicians.
Yeah.
And we were excited, but we were still. It was like, oh, and you'd be told what to do, and you kind of get coached, and you just get molded.
Break it down, drummer.
Playing with older, seasoned musicians, kind of guiding you, and they just, dynamics is what they always told us.
Yeah.
I started playing in church really young, and then playing in the church band, and learning those songs, and then playing with other people. Just the more people you play with, it's different, a different experience every time. That really helps you mold you. Yeah.
I've always found that with, for me, when behind the kick, then I could, whether it's the fearlessness or just how are you singing and drumming, and just with playing music. Period. I always say, there's no thinking. I don't want to do any thinking. It's all feel. You want to just feel. Of course, muscle memorization. Just no thinking. I think because when I get in, for me at least, when I get in my own head, whether I'm thinking about playing or the song or something else besides just this, goes. For me, I fall right off. I fall off, and so
It goes for all.
I found that when I really let it go,
There's
just let it go and no cares, not even like, it's funny now, but like when I was really young, like in junior high, and I was starting to play trap kit in like a jazz band setting in school, I knew I used to make my face do certain things, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that in front of people, because they're gonna think I'm weird, and then it was like, so I try to keep my face, it's all in my head, and then the other thing, it was don't make weird faces, and then the second was, I had to keep my shoes on. I felt like, oh, I can't take my shoes off. I'm in school. So I had my shoes on, and I'm like trying to keep all straight face. And it was the hardest thing I ever did. It was so hard. And my teacher said, Manny, are you all right? You felt like, I know you get nervous, but, and I was like, I don't know, man. I think it was my shoes. And I was like, I was a kid, like all this different. And then I went home and thought about it. I was like, okay, well, it feels better, I got my shoes on. And then the next time we had an event, a school event, had the shoes off and just let it go. I didn't have long hair, but I let my hair down. And I just didn't think about what people were looking at me or if I had drool on my face or those little things and it was a world of difference. I lost track of time. And then from that point on, I said, I'll never wear my shoes again. But for two, I just won't get in my own head. It's one of those things I think we can be our worst enemy. And for me, it's like I don't want to be thinking when I'm playing because I want to just be feeling it.
It took me a long time to just let it be open, let it just freely come out because I was classically trained when I was younger, and every recital was judged. So you are thinking.
It is the complete opposite.
It's the complete opposite. I'm consciously thinking like I need to perform this because I'm gonna get graded and judged on this.
straight.
And, so it's like they look at that. They look at posture. They look at how you bow, how you technique, how you have your hand. I play piano.
Your shirt tucked in.
Oh
nice.
yeah, I've had the little tail.
You look good.
I play piano, classical piano. And so I just recitals as a kid just kind of ingrained that real stringent kind of performance. And then when I did want to quit, because it was so just like military, like almost, because my teacher was just like, no roller hitting on the hand, but she was strict. I wanted to write my own music. I wanted to be free. I didn't want anybody to tell me how to play it. If I wanted to learn a song, I'll do it my own way, and not be so ingrained in that or just restricted to that. And so it took me a while to loosen up and be more free. But when I do, the better playing comes out, and I'm not thinking about it.
So with all that, how much practice goes into it collectively and individually to be able to get to that point where you can just freely play?
I guess that's like we all know that it's never ending. That's forever. But when
I was younger, I would put in 6 hours a day.
And then when we were really young, I was really fortunate to have that. And then even in the early years of Groove Session, only until about 2 years ago we were able to rehearse. Like, we would try to 4 or 5 times a week, which was. A lot of people look at us like, really?
Because these guys live with each other.
We were still living together, and then
I was only 2 miles away.
He was 2 miles away.
Yeah. So every day I was over there.
And it was like, girlfriends play.
We're having a gig.
Girlfriends, like, they understand. We want to play, and or is that, or
and then the
friends.
gigs on the weekends.
And the gigs on the weekend.
Live rehearsals per se,
And then there would be times where we knew we still wanted to have our personal lives, because there's always that balance. There's a hard, big balance. And at that time, we did recognize that we needed. We didn't have families, and it was like, these are things that. So we need to really focus in on our time at that time, and so we did. We just played, and.
We might not practice as much together now, but we play a lot more together still live. And personally, I practice every day, like at least an hour.
Gotta put in the time.
And just get my fingers going, remember what's what.
For me, there's always a guitar out,
I have a routine. We all have routines that we go through.
A couple acoustics out, just, it's like, pick it up. Or sit down on the piano, pick it up.
Even for a second or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
at least you did it.
At least. It's like just trying music every day.
Lonnie, you took a class, and it sort of speaks to what you're saying about letting go, and you had a master class here with Plaz Johnson.
I took the Plaz
for
Johnson
improv.
class. Yeah.
And I wondered, did that help you?
It taught me a lot of different
things
things
to share what you learned and
I'm
be quiet.
being a bass player. I never thought I could do lead. I never thought I could be a lead player or do anything other than the root, kind of staying with the under them. And Plaz was just kind of applying it to every musician. He was like, this line right here, and I was like, wow. I was like, you could use that in bass and kind of use that configuration in different ways and just become a lead instrument, or just kind of fill in the gaps. Whereas a 3-piece, we are just a 3-piece. So I kind of feel like I got to do a little percussion on there, and I think Plaz. I think what he was trying to get across was just like, there's no wrong or no right. There's so many things to do, and he showed us so many lines, and it was just endless. And he was like, all his licks were just. He wrote Pink Panther. He wrote. He was part of the Wrecking Crew.
Part of the Wrecking Crew, yeah.
Which was a group of musicians who were all hired guns to stay in the studio and record for
so many.
From the Beach Boys, everything to Motown, just everything was recorded by these guys, and actually the female bassist too. There was just a eclectic group of people, and now there's a documentary out called The Wrecking Crew that you can see. And Plaz, the class, I think I was one of the only bass players, and I had my bass out, and he gave us sheet music, and he showed us things. I didn't read any music, but I was just listening, and I felt out of place a little bit because I'm not a horn player. But looking back on it, if I would have gone now, I could have really absorbed more, because I just musically, it's night and day from what I was, and I can see all the things he was trying to get across. It was just not staying in one box. Kind of, the saxophone is like out of the box.
Yeah.
All the lines and all that.
But isn't that cool though that you had that sort of in your little bag?
Yeah.
And that when it was time, you used it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I guess I say that because for our students, to learn that now, and maybe it doesn't apply to them now, but at some point it may the way it did with you.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I think what you guys are all sharing individually, people can take away and remember and then apply it. Whether they do it now, or perhaps some of our students have
It does just
a lot of
take the time.
experience and remember that too. And it's just a confirmation of what musicians know.
Yeah.
I think it also speaks to another important thing which you guys are doing here, and that's being role models. And so on that note, who have been kind of your role models, both musically and just in your life, and how has it affected you in how you feel about where you are and being a role model?
I mean, that is really important, because it's going back to, like, for us, like, having, especially the drummer, like, just barely trying to hold on to keeping a beat, and to have older artists say, no, you got it, or being encouraging, but then really staying there with you, and then just, and not even in so many words, but you could see that treat this, respect what you're doing here,
It's the responsibility.
the responsibility, and you got obviously
You don't want that responsibility, but it just happens.
well with your instrument, but then it's like as an artist, as an entertainer, you don't want to look sloppy, you don't want to be all out of it, or come late, or just kind of obnoxious on stage or off stage. And so
the venue, you gotta always want to be invited back. You want to kind of be respectful, and it turns into just kind of always being that. And that's why we're Warriors for Peace and the Positive Movement, and we do that for us as well as for everyone that we play for. It's just inside us knowing that we need to always be strong and conscious of what's our surroundings.
I think for like influence, it's like our parents, our like we grew up playing sports, and like our dad
And listening to music.
is coach, and so it was like playing sports and that sort of setting and being a team player. And then our mom, well, she has a bead store, but very crafty, very artsy, and she's always we've always done projects, like done fun stuff. And so it was like the idea of like trying something new, or or if you're gonna do something, go full out, don't half-ass it, that sort of idea. And so definitely that. And then I think for me, my uncles, because when I very first started, one of my uncles gave me a cymbal, a couple cymbals, and helped me to tune the drums, and then just being able to play along, whether it was funerals or weddings or birthdays or just gatherings, So it was like I think my very first influences were pretty much my family, aunts, uncles, and then cousins, and just seeing like what I thought, especially as a kid, like seeing your aunts, your uncles, just these adults, and all of a sudden they get behind the kit and they make it sound all musical, or they pick up a guitar, an instrument, and just sing, and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know they did that, like that's cool, because they weren't walking around like that's what I do all the time.
You singing on stage, it was like,
yeah, very first time seeing our aunt sing, it was like, whoa. And so that was it's like, we know them, this is our families. They're so talented.
Looking at you so different.
And so it is that. And then I love seeing, like, because everyone, I get asked often, like, who's your favorite drummer? That's too hard. It's so hard for me to say, but it's like some influence musically, like, so many different musicians, but like a guy that I always, for whatever reason, I just loved his playing, but then his freedom at his instrument is Jimi Hendrix. Just think, I wanted to be Jimmy on the drums, like play it upside down, just anything. Like, I just thought it was like, because he could, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, those guys could they could kick their guitar and it sounded beautiful. It just sounded cool. He could hold it, but just the freedom and the how fluent it was. I always thought, like, as a painter, like someone who could, like, it just flows out of them. It was like, for those, I think, like poets, like that's just, when you watch someone and they don't have to say anything. It just kind of comes out of them. Those are people that I really dig.
Well, yeah. And then I was just gonna go back to that. Like my first influence was my dad. He played piano and guitar, and like with their family, my family was musical. So at every family event, a guitar would come out or a couple, and we'd all sing songs. And those memories have stuck. I've seen them when I was a kid, and I remember even a band at my elementary school when I was in first grade, second grade, that came, and I was like, damn, that was really cool. And then all the guys that in church that I played with and asked questions like, how do you make that sound, or how do you, what should I listen to learn how to play what you're playing? All those things I still remember, and I'm 31, and so I feel like, and we've had experiences playing in elementary schools, playing at YMCA's, playing at Boys and Girls Clubs, and to be able to kind of reciprocate that back to the kid and maybe be an influence to them, for them to remember when they're 30. And that's just a really cool thing to be able to do, be able to have. And so we don't take it lightly when it comes to professionalism and how we appear, especially at the all ages events or festivals
Especially,
like that.
yeah.
You know,
Well, I
it's
mean,
like-
always, but for
yeah,
sure.
always. You know, even off stage. You know, and a lot of these festivals can tend to be, you know, a lot of-
Drug induced.
Drug induced. There's a lot of drugs around it, and so. But then there's these kids around it, so I don't want them to see me on stage and think I'm like, oh man, that guy's so cool.
Because that's
like,
not.
I love their message as a group and a band, but then I just saw him
But then look at
puke
him.
over there and sat in the corner for being too wasted. That's not cool. You know?
Yeah.
Holding it together.
He's barely holding it
You
together.
know, and so it's a responsibility that we've all, you know, are conscious about.
Yeah.
It's important.
Especially our friends' kids. Everyone. It's just. you gotta
And then
just-
even to not even to kids, but even to younger
Right.
musicians who are just starting maybe the
Even
music
our age.
program. I mean, you're even our age. It's like, dude,
We
you're-
say kids in the
No,
rock.
it's like-
They're our
It's like,
age.
dude, you're 31, get it together.
I guess they're not playing. They're there to drink.
Yeah, I guess so.
And we have peers in bands that we know that it's they're a party band, and it's like, you know,
We
good
want
luck with that
longevity.
because the longevity is they're just. I would be toast. I'd be toast after a weekend.
And why would a venue want to hire you back?
Well, those things, but then some. It's well, whatever brings in the most people, you know, when it comes to some of those venues. But it's for us, it was like we want to get even more on that side of you know, we're trying to take better care of ourselves, but you know, add in some of the going green, and some of these other groups that, you know, like we do a lot of things with functions, and it's like a bunch of yogis, and I always feel like, man, I'm way out of
Vegan
shape for
festival.
a vegan festival, and it's like, geez, I am like the obvious meat eater. You know? We're trying to get more conscious and pay more attention, and we're not like, oh no, we're trying to dive in, but then at the same time, it's like, I can't. It's pretty obvious, like, yeah, okay, that guy, you're not fooling anyone there, big guy. But, you know, we are trying to be part of the positive movement, which is definitely going on.
You touched on longevity. You guys had an opportunity early on to work behind the scenes at a couple of large venues here in LA. Could you talk about, just briefly, about who you met and how they touched your lives and who they were?
Working with the production company, working with the Rodri.
Rodri Productions,
doing
yeah, we
the-
did a couple of like the Mariachi USA and a Latin Jazz Festival at the Greek, but then also at the Hollywood Bowl and the John Anson
John
Ford
Anson,
Theater.
did a couple Day of the Dead.
And it was another case of because we were doing production, so we were crew, and we would be the greet after getting
And
like,
there's-
you know, getting coffee and all the tea and everything ready, making sure all that's good to go, stage is ready, and then as artists start to arrive, greet them, help them with their instruments, and then the ones that stick with you is the ones, the folks that, hey, how you doing? Oh, here you go, thank you, or I got it, thank you though, or you can help me with this, and just very real, and you know, some people, we all have our days and our moods and our things, but for the most part, just a little thank you or eye contact goes so far, and I felt we were really fortunate to have quite a few folks
And just
like that.
besides being a musician, it's so much more than just being a musician. It's everyone behind making that day happen, and it's from being fed to being drank to being comfortable.
Yeah.
It's just making them comfortable was. We weren't even playing yet, and we were doing this, and it was like, this is how it should. This is cool. This is what it should be like. This is so cool for them. They're like being so hooked up, and they're appreciative of it, and most everyone is like just so happy to get a plate of food and just sit backstage. And
I don't like pineapple. No, it was like that. You know,
no, yeah, everyone's appreciative of everything that's going on. I was just so fresh. I was like, what is the hairs? What are you talking about?
How important is listening to music?
And listening.
It's key.
It's key. I mean, not even just listening off stage, but I mean, of course, importantly on stage, listening to each other and not just going through the motions of your part.
New music.
You know, it's listening.
Old music.
And then listening to other bands and yeah, looking back at the history of where that band came from and who were their influences has always been something we've always done.
Yeah, we love finding new music or someone turning, you know, I mean, how cool is that when either you get to be the one to turn someone on to something new or receive it, like, oh, I've never heard of them. Let me check that out, you know, oh, dude, let me write a couple more down. Or maybe you've never heard of these guys, or there's a cool record label that has a ton of great artists on there. I love finding new
And
music
that could
or
be-
old new music.
And that
of
could be
course.
some of the best schooling. You know, you don't have to be in school of music to pick up all that stuff. And so if you're hungry for it, then just go out and you know, go to your record store. And,
Early on, I was always listening. Well, I was always kind of, you would lose a little bit of the inspiration of when you first started wanting to play music, and I would go back to the very first things that it was like, oh yeah, I was listening to Rage Against the Machine. And that's kind of where I was kind of feeling, and it's like you kind of lose it as you're going, and it's like, I want to get back to that. Or I want to get, I don't know. Got to remember what we were listening to in the very beginning, because then you start hearing the new music that's coming out, and if you're not into it, it's like, oh shoot. I just listen to my old stuff again.
Do you guys ever do on like when you're starting when you're writing songs? Do you ever think about as opposed to a theme like peace or women's rights or something? Do you ever think of like of events? Do you ever done anything with events like Standing Rock or the police shootings of blacks or Trump or
Right.
Do you ever think of an event to create a song?
More now.
More, yeah, like the new album right now, I think because of, like there's a couple of songs on the new album that it's a lot of it was like during the election and like just all the crap talking that was going on at that time and just how it was just overwhelming for all of us, it was like, and then it was just splitting household, it was like just everybody like, nah. And no one was really listening to each other, just spewing. And so certain like little events like that, but it only more recently. But that's some of my favorite songs or events that it just you could listen to the song and it takes you right there. And those are, I think that's important,
Because it's one thing, because I'm thinking like the boss, he goes and he plays for events and stuff.
Right.
But he also incorporates certain like struggles as part of his songs, part of his lyrics.
Yeah.
And then he makes the music fit that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, the boss is the man.
You guys are just starting to experiment with that?
Yeah, and it's like
It has been more themed, like not specifically like narrowed down to one event. I've always admired writers that can do that just like experience something and then it's like, oh yeah, song's right there, Like John Lennon was like master at that, Like a day in the life, he just read a newspaper and wrote the lyric to that song. It's like, okay, guys can do that. For us, it's been more like thematic. Like, let's talk about, like we have a song called "Ills of a Society" where it just kind of talks about the different layers of the world and how things work, and it's more of as a whole instead of just like pinpointing one thing.
And even our other song, it's which only says "free as you want to be." And it kind of turned into more than just like being free on your instrument or just being free in your mind. It turned into what's going on now and just being free as you want to be, and not being on a political stand so much as just being on a positive stand and showing it. And then it kind of relates to political, relates to social.
Well, we hold ourselves, like I at that time when it was coming up, that line was like, we restrict ourselves on most things that, we tell ourselves we can't do something before anyone else does. And so it was like trying to change that idea. I'm only as free as I want to be. And so if I can truly not try to hold myself down with an idea or doubt, whatever, just kind of let it fly. And so, but when it comes to concepts, like that's really where like when listening to music, I find myself listening more in the last year or two to a lot of great songwriters like that, just that tell a great story, and I just can't get enough of that now. Where I used to be like, okay, blah 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 blah, and that's like now I'm like, can't turn it up, can't hear.
Now we have the opportunity to really actually write a song for a specific thing. We got asked to do something for the national parks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's Jonathan McEwen. He's a singer-songwriter from the Ojai area, and he's putting together an album, a compilation album. And his dad is in the nitty gritty dirt band. The nitty gritty dirt band. There you go. And he's got those guys are coming, and then it's the Cash family, and there was quite
It's an honor.
I think it was Arlo Guthrie and a couple different, like very, just some great Emmylou Harris, a lot of great songwriters. And he said, but you know, we don't have any like a band or a groove band. He's like, and I want something with just a little bit extra skip. He goes, you know, we got plenty of John Muir. He's a total jokester, and he's like, we got plenty of John Muir graybeards. He's like, we need some youngsters. And I was like, we would be honored. And he's like, you pick the park, and he's like, you know, it's a great concept. He's like, you pick the park and you figure out how you want to do it, but talk about the park, the national park, or just a concept within that. And so I've been floating a couple different ideas, and it's so, you know, it's like, all right, that's fun, it's exciting, and in these times again, it is something that we better be talking about our national parks before, yeah. What do you mean national park? That's not a park. Yeah, sell it off and build condos at the top of Half Dome.
Head count is for the voting. You know, they do the get out and vote, and they register people.
Oh, and then head count is another one that reached out. Yeah.
So now they've asked if you have a protest song, or are you covering a protest song? And so he said, as soon as you do, tag us, and we want to start promoting it. And there's a ton of them out there. Real famous guys that are doing.
And yeah, they're looking for it. And I think that's awesome because goes right back to what you were saying. It was like we started talking about that, like, you know, we need to be a little bit more forward with it. We need to push it a little bit, like what, you know, without getting all, because we've never wanted to be preachy or that sort of.
Or name drop.
Well, no name dropping, but no, just that. I'm talking about on stage, you know. And it was like I wanted to feel like a sense of church in the sense of we all feel good. But it's not like, oh, you got to be this or do that or I'm this or that. Just come as you are, you know. And then it was like so it was like a fine line of like I didn't want to say too much or like be offensive to somebody in this room might, you know, not agree. And then more and more it's just like just speak your mind and keep you know, it'll be all right. Because I've always been hard on myself, like someone's gonna get pissed or someone's gonna be upset with what I said, and it's like, well, you can't please everybody, you know. And really, at the end of the day, it's like
the music.
The message needs to come through. It needs to be strong, and it needs to come through. And so, you know.
Now we have a crossover with these metalheads too. It's like bringing metalheads and hippie sort of side.
We've noticed that lately at our shows, where a lot more of the progressive rock scene coming in, and it's like, well, it's just one's in a black shirt, one's in a tie dye, but it's the same for the most part. There's a lot of that. And so it's nice to see crossover, and then for people to just recognize that we're all we all, for the most part, it's all the same stuff. We love being around ones that we love. We love eating good and hearing great music, you know. We all just may dance a little different, but we all love the same stuff. Yeah. Some of us like to hit each other, and some of us want to dance. I'm more of just a post up against the wall guy myself, usually. I can watch the drummer, of course.
So, I can assume you guys listen to music that sounds like what you guys play, or is that kind of different?
Yeah, no.
Kind of, sort of, typically?
Yeah, I mean, I try to find new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, like with Spotify and everything now, it's just like endless. Really, there's so much stuff out there. It's hard to keep track, but
yeah.
And then like Ronnie said, like, you know, the stuff that you liked before, you kind of gravitate. But what's cool about Spotify is that if you pop up in somebody like John Mayer or something, then like, you know, I'll suggest this, suggest that. So that helps you find new music. But yeah, sometimes if we there was one time when we were listeing to a lot of kind of like electronic dance, and so
just because we were trying to figure out why everyone was listening to so much electronic.
Once I did, like, trying to figure it out, and like being part of the festival scene, seeing that, and like, okay, looking up those bands, and then like, you know, we started writing a little bit like that, trying to get that vibe going. And so, you know, the stuff that, like you said, how important is listening to music. Yeah, it's gonna affect your writing, it's gonna affect your playing, and you choose how you want it to affect you.
Yeah.
You know.
So what I was sort of getting at was, you know, you guys have been around for a while. You guys have put like 5 albums out, or working on 5. It takes like a lot of work, a lot of talent, a lot of dedication. you guys ever listen to your own music just for pure, enjoyment? Not necessarily to critique yourself or see how you're progressing, but just like, you know what, that was cool. I want to listen to that. Like, what is that like if you've done it?
Well, for me, like, cause I like to use Pandora, and so like, when Groove Session got on Pandora, I was like, oh, I gotta check out Groove Session Pandora. I want to hear what that's all about. So I popped that on, and I just wanted to hear what else would come through, and I was like, man, I was on a bunch of lame bands, dude. That sucked. But no, it was really cool. It was really cool. It's very diverse. There would be, it'd be a reggae tune, then be a rock tune, then be like an Irish jig, like kind of punk song, and then it would go into, a Floydy song, and it's like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is really cool that this is what, where they threw us in, this or where we came out. And so when I do like a full shuffle of like all of my different stations, it'll pop up.
Yeah.
And if I'm by myself or like me and my wife, like I won't change it. But if we have guests over, just because I'm thinking they're like, this dude listens to me so fast, So I'll be like, oh, let's turn that. But it is cool because, especially with the older tunes, because it's like, man, either we haven't played that in a long time, or dang,
That was a good
that was better than I remember. Because you always put your latest project or whatever you're working on is it. And you kind of forget about some of the other stuff. And then you come back to it, it keeps it fresh, and you're like, that is cool.
Yeah.
So it gives a good perspective.
Well, you got to keep in mind, audiences always they always know the key songs.
That's true too.
And as you progress, you don't want to. You feel like you're going back or regressing, but it doesn't go back.
Those are
on the audience of people's hearts.
Yeah,
right.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's true.
We saw that last night.
Yeah, exactly. Playing older songs. That's one of the things in music. And going to see a live show is that you do want to hear some of the songs that you want to sing along.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a NPR interview with a comedian, and he was saying that the hardest part about a comedian is you can't really repeat your same jokes.
Yeah, no kidding.
And like when you go to a concert, people want to hear the same songs that they've heard over and over. But when you go to a comedy show, it's like, heard that joke. It's not funny anymore the third time,
Yeah, that's a whole. Like I have so much respect for comedians because I just.
And we have a lot of live tapers that come to our shows now, and so we do get to go back and listen to the most recent shows. And I do like to critique I like to listen. I call it like game footage. It's like I like to really see what we did.
Yeah.
And if I don't remember even, I'm like, what was that?
Right.
Oh, that was cool. Maybe we can do that again.
Yeah, or there's those little moments that happen, like the spontaneous
Right.
stuff where you're like, what did we do last night? It was cool, but it was in between, this song and this song. I don't remember though. And then luckily, lately we've been able to go back and go, oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
Man, it was cooler than we thought. It wasn't as cool.
No, that's another thing I was gonna say. I think
Take it out.
Yeah, take it out. Cut that out.
It was like Slash or Joe Bonamassa or one of the guitar players. Like he says, he never listens to his live recordings because he doesn't want that feeling that he had on stage to be skewed by listening to it. He's like, I felt like it was a great show. I want to hold that feeling in here and not ruin
I think it was
by,
Slash.
Not
Remember,
learn
was it
the
Slash?
reality.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to ruin it by hearing something, I messed up that note, but, maybe live it just didn't matter,
Yeah.
but when you listen back, you tend to be a little more.
And then you might think about it at that 1 second when it comes up. It's like, oh, remember that?
I hope I don't mess it up this
Yeah,
time.
It was really good on the last one.
And then you're not in the music.
Then you
you're-
get into what he said earlier, about your head starts to think.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention with that.
You're not playing.
There's another documentary called The Deep End, and it's about.
That's a great documentary.
It's about a bass player.
Yeah.
And it's all about being in your head, basically. It's the
Call
whole
it Deep End.
the deep end.
Deep end.
All sorts of bass players. It's just tons of bass players.
Yeah, it was.
You ever seen?
Yeah, it was put
Alan
out
Woody?
by it was put on by Mike Gordon, who's bass player for band Fish, and he did a documentary on Alan Woody, who was the
It's a
bass
good
player who used to be he was in the Allman Brothers, and then he started a trio with we call Government Meal with Warren Haynes, guitar player, and Alan was just a great human being, phenomenal bass player, but just a sweetheart and just loved among all. And then when they put this documentary together, it's really cool because it's like Chris Squire of Yes and Rocco from Tower Power, and so it's just got all these John Entwistle, the Who, so it's got so many Fleet, so
Les
many great
Claypool's
bass
in it,
players.
Stanley Clark.
It's cool perspective because I've always felt like a bass player at heart, you know, just because I think playing drums and you think bass, but that was a fun one just because.
Because they're all talking about being in your head, and for a bass player, that's like the number one thing. Is if you're thinking about what's coming next, it might not be right. So you just gotta just not think about the. And it's hard to like exactly describe that. It's like.
It's like when you're on a bike,
think.
you don't sit there
You
and
wanna
go,
think.
right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg.
Yeah.
You know, you just ride your bike.
Yeah.
So.
Moving forward. Just constantly
Yeah.
moving forward.
As long as I'm going forward, I guess so. But.
Yeah, it's letting that part of your brain just kind of take over. When you have, you have to put the practice in, of course,
Right.
and learn the muscle memory and learn all that, and however you view the fretboard, like I look at it very mathematically, because that's just how my brain works. And so calculating, counting, but then of course after you play a song a dozen times, then you don't have to look. You let yourself just focus on the emotion of what you're trying to convey through the instrument, instead of the actual note you're trying to play. Because I already know the note. I already know the position my hand needs to be in. I already know the tempo needs to go and what pedals I need to play. Let me just focus on playing now.
So where do you guys want? What are your goals right now? Where are you aiming for? What are you? Is there an end? Well, I guess that answers itself. There's not really an endpoint.
Not an endpoint, but right now, currently, we're in the studio. We're recording out in San Gabriel. It's with John Avila, bass player from Oingo Boingo. He's producing. First time working with a producer, which has really been a blast. But producing and recording, and he's doing the album with us, and we're in the halfway mark. And so getting that wrapped up right now, currently booking like all the summer festivals and tours and all that. So like short term is getting back, getting the album done, supporting the album, returning to a lot of the Midwest, Pacific Northwest and South, like a lot of the areas that we go to that we haven't been to in the last 3 to 6 months, or some of them a year. So getting out there and doing that, and at the same time, approaching more record labels, knowing that we really, because we used to, we weren't sure what we wanted, and then, just with more and more research and talking with folks and seeing what kind of deals are out there, and then what are we looking for? That was the big question: is what do we want out of something, out of a deal? And it really came down to, I think the main thing is, we were looking for a distribution, so someone to really help us get the music into major brick and mortars or major retail stores, the ones that are left, because we could walk it into a mom and pop record store, which we love to do. That's cool. When we're on the road, we'll do that. But so getting with distribution, and then we do the booking ourselves, but I'd like to work with an agency, someone that's kind of like an umbrella agency. So we've talked to different agencies and trying to figure out, though, because a lot of it's like we do it all, and so they just want you sign here. We're gonna do a 360 deal, and we'll take care of it. We have a person to do all these things, and I think because we've been DIY for so long, or that's just how it is. That's just the industry how it is now. But being DIY, it's like, okay, like I'm not against paying someone else to do that, but I've been doing it to this point, and so unless you're doing a region or something that I can't do, I don't know that I want to pay to do the same thing that I'm doing.
It's hard to give the reins.
It's hard
to let someone.
So it's trying to find what exactly are we looking for.
Especially if you don't have to. I mean.
And then certain things.
Right, there's things that you can do and get done.
Yeah.
Because you don't have other obligations. If you have, if you all have big families.
Right.
And then you don't have the time.
Yeah.
If you have the time.
And it's that, and then also recognizing that when we do have time, I would just love to be able to write more, of course, and just be able to focus on performing. And so it is like, well, we could really utilize that.
And so going back to goals as in a broader perspective is having that shift of being able to do it full time without having to worry about having a side job.
Yeah.
Or something.
Cutting down a tree on the weekend.
Bills, because we need to pay bills and all that stuff, and so that shift where it's like music's sustaining that lifestyle, and we've learned to just become minimalists to the bare bones, and you know,
You've
scrape
learned to
by.
become a
Yeah.
musician.
Got
So
our
they're
one
becoming good
pants,
because, you know,
got
the-
our one
the-
shirt.
The struggling artist income is a very real thing.
And
so-
supporting other artists, you know.
Yeah.
But you touched on something, because I hear it, with visual and performing artists, the idea of struggling. And I don't know, I sort of take
Well-
odds with the idea that we struggle.
Okay,
Right.
so it's not.
Rather
The struggle's a
than
bad
we
word.
make choices.
Yeah,
Yes, I was gonna
no,
say. I was just gonna
that
say,
is it, that
this
is
is
it.
the life we choose.
The
And
rough
I say
road
because
is
we're going to
always
be talking with young people
Yeah.
as well in the future.
Yeah.
It is not
For
struggle.
them to even hear,
Hear the word struggle.
that-
Yeah.
Right, no, yeah.
Then to hear the word,
It's-
poor,
it's
Yeah.
etc.
Right.
But to create a mindset of, you said that openness
Yeah.
and that joy,
Mm-hmm.
and we make
It's-
choices.
Yeah, it's a life we
I'd
choose.
like for you to speak about that because you guys have made those choices.
Yeah.
And you're so
It's-
happy with what you do, I feel.
Yeah.
It's all about being happy with what you're doing. I never thought when I was 12 or 13 that I was going to end up being 30 and be in a pretty minimal, successful band and be touring and be playing with just three of us. Even
Yeah.
that, if anything, we'll be in like a bigger band and more people, but it's just unexpected. And that's the enjoyment of it was like, this is what we enjoy to do. And I don't
And that
think
is
we'd
the
have it
thing.
any other way.
We've heard stories. It's like if it's not fun anymore, then it's like,
Yeah.
why are you playing? Why are you playing music? Music should be something that's heartfelt and
Kinda-
a way to express yourself emotionally. It should be an outlet to everything else that's going on in life. Like I had a rough week, and then last night we played. Was able to just let all that emotion come through, and that's something that you don't want to lose, because if you lose it, then it's like playing music. It's like I don't want to
It's one
have
of
to
the-
work.
One of the other things during the week.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes one of the other
When you're
things.
touring and then you link up with the band and they're like, and it's kind of getting negative and it's like, and it's like,
It's like, stop
but
doing
this
it.
is what you're doing. It's kind of cool though. I mean, how could you hate this? Or how could you be upset or be complaining?
Right.
The drive was so fun.
Your worst day on the road is often better than most people's worst day at home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely,
Perspective.
we've definitely early on, we're fortunate enough to have people that we had with us on the road to remind us of things like that. But then also we just had to remind ourselves that it's not, because the line that people always used to say, we don't hear it anymore or much, but was, what are you guys gonna do when you make it? Or when this making it idea, or this idea of
Yeah.
that you're gonna
We're
get
making
somewhere and
it.
all of a sudden
Yeah.
everything
We're making it right
changes.
now.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's
what are you
like,
talking
well, we're working,
Right.
we're making it,
That's
we're
right.
happy,
I'm in a
we're
different-
here, we're in a different
Yeah, I'm in a
state.
different state
You're
talking
paying
to
your
you about
bills
my show.
Bills
Yeah.
are paid,
Right.
you know, we're breathing, we have each other, everyone's healthy in our family, and it was like,
Exactly.
those were the things that were important. And then we're huge foodies, we love eating, and so like whenever we go somewhere, we're like, okay, you know,
Diners and
What is
drive-ins.
it?
let's do local. Let's support local. Let's meet local. Or the night after the show, or night right after the show, when everyone's kind of, hey, nice to meet you, buying merch. We always ask like, where do you guys eat breakfast? Where are you guys gonna have breakfast? Or what's the late night eats? There's only and then you go there in the morning, and then you look, and the girl who's dancing in the front row is pouring your coffee, and she's like just as tired as you, and she's like, she's like, I was there. That was fun. That was a fun night. And then you get to really know a town better.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I hope you guys come back. It's like, we'll be back in 3 months. We promise. And then when you do, that's when the real relationships happen. And I feel really blessed to like have that, where you get people from that feel like family.
Like you said, there's like
From all over the country.
There's no really any end to this. Is if you want to do this if this is your career and you want to do this for a lifetime until you retire, then you just keep going until there's no guarantee to this whole thing, and there's no magic recipe of how you get to what is successful in other people's eyes. You just keep going and you keep pushing and you stay focused and continue to try to be inspired.
And there wasn't a gig that we would turn down for a long time. We would take.
Yeah, it was about
Right.
it was like quantity. It was
Quantity over quality.
At one point.
We were talking about it.
What
At the very beginning, we did like a dental office opening, a vegan grocery store
We
opening.
did a live stream opening.
Right.
a live stream over it. It
A
was
lot
like,
of
what
different,
We did
all-girl Catholic school.
That
That was interesting. I was like, what are we doing here? This is cool though. Yeah, how do we get this gig? No, but then the longer term goals is going into traveling. As far as we've noticed online, we have a great push in Europe,
South America.
Asia, and then South America is like, not to say huge, but it's like we got to look into this because there's we get long letters in Portuguese and then we have to translate it and it's come, please come, and it's like that is so cool, like
Yeah.
There's
So-
a band in the
Azores Islands,
Azores
just off of
Islands that named
Portugal,
themselves Groove Session, and
and they're writing songs
it's kind of
They
crazy.
said-
Inspired by us.
inspired by us. They wrote us this really
They
sweet
messaged-
letter,
yeah,
and
they said their album they just finished
We're
was
on.
completely inspired by us.
so to us that's huge. That's what's
That's
fine. That tells us
freaking
that
awesome.
we need to continue to play here in the States because we haven't seen all of the United States, and we'll be playing here forever. But it's like it's nice to go and to get away a little bit,
One day, yeah.
And we recognized too that it's so funny, but as a band, the further out you go, when you come home, the people at home are a little bit happier to see you. They come out to see you more.
Yeah.
When we used to,
We go months, playing shows at home and just like there's nobody here.
and then we go,
we leave
we're
for
gone,
tour.
and then it's like, when are you guys coming home? It's like, we were just home for a month, and then when you come home, then those shows are full, and it was like, okay.
And it's like a welcome
We
back
should leave
show.
soon.
Geez, I guess we gotta go again. So noticing that, and just that, of course, rowing the boat and just continuing to connect the dots, because we really do see how the world is a small place. It really is. It's crazy.
Especially the music world.
In the music world especially, but the world is a small place, and people talking and the word of mouth, I still believe, is the number one way to get anything out there. The movement of just people talking, and so I think just getting out there and then we wanna go on, because we love the road and we're pretty road worn, that we wanna be support for a large act, where we do like 20 shows in a row, something like that. And all they got to do is give us a cheese sandwich and a place to set up our merchandise, because I think for something that we've noticed with for ourselves, but then bands that we talk to on the road is merchandise is everything, as far as your sales. Like
It's
you
endless,
Yeah.
well, you can make that you could really do very well
Put
in
your name on anything.
There's a lot of
Yeah, we should.
unique merch.
You could set it up on
in merchandise, and so that's something that it was like, well, can we have enough?
And we've come a long way from this box right here.
Short-term goal is, because everything's do-it-yourself, is a publicist. We need a good publicist, somebody that.
Publicists is definitely worth their
And
weight.
it's another thing on the budget that you go as a do-it-yourself, where if you had a label, they have these departments that will
Yeah.
take these things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, it's all or nothing. But there's some boutiques out there, some smaller labels that we're talking with, that hopefully we can work something out. It's just another person we're gonna owe.
Right.
And
So the money will fall.
You progress because certain things are put in place that, as you said,
Yes.
you can't do.
Yep.
That they're part of
Yep.
the growth and success of the end result, is that you get an audience because they heard about it through
Yeah.
all of these mediums that you don't have time to do.
Right. No, and that's so important, because when I think about some of the bands that I've gotten turned on, I'm like, how did I find out about that band? And it's like, I read a great article,
There you
things
go.
like that.
And that kind of reflection is really helpful, that you
Mhm.
remember how they impacted you.
Yeah. Yeah,
How
'cause
they got to you. Besides
how did they hook me in?
talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting back to like when Dan was talking about how people were coming after them after every show and saying, what do you do when you make it? And I started hearing that so much. People going, oh dude, what are you doing when they make it? And I just kind of got tired of
Like,
hearing
make
it. Like,
American Idol? What are you talking about? Make
3 more
one?
weeks on the road. They
Song
have
on
like
K-Rock, or what does this
15
mean?
more shows. And this is kind of what we're making it. Tomorrow they're going to some hot springs. They're going to soak a little bit, maybe hit a golf ball or two.
Yeah.
They're going to go
yeah.
hiking up into the, things that I don't get to do in my everyday job. So I'm hanging with these guys. It's like, wow, I don't do the hiking with them too much, but yeah.
A lot of the making it too is to not take anything lightly. It's like
You
This
start.
this is our.
It's the passion, whether it's
Yeah.
one person or 150 people, and then I'm watching these guys, and then it's as far as the money on it, if they can make just a teacher salary and sustain a life to do this. I mean, I think people look at it as millions and cars and boats.
Yeah, we're just happy just
Yeah.
being able
No,
to
just do what you're
perform.
doing, and it's perspective, you know. I mean, I think
That's very true.
It is,
That's
it is
everything.
perspective. And then
It is,
I mean,
it is.
because we choose this path, and you know, we may not necessarily make the biggest paycheck. We start appreciating other things like things out in nature and being able to hike, being able to do the hot springs, where
Great
it's like
conversation.
a great conversation, a good meal, a warm shower. It's like these small little things that people take for granted.
take you in.
Kind people.
kind, you know, all those
Say,
things.
I have a place for you.
You know, a good cup of coffee.
That the girl, the waitress pouring your guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, stuff
it's
like
like
that.
awesome.
Or because then she's like, "Hey, have you guys heard of the hot springs? It's not
Oh,
really on the
yeah.
map." No.
Yeah.
Do you have time today? We do. And then draw a
We'll just
little
be
map.
sleeping.
Take a napkin and take. And okay, so you're gonna go.
Yeah.
Then it's 2 miles off the highway right here, and it's like that stuff right
Those
there is
experiences,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Pin drop it, and we will be back.
technologies.
It's your, it's their almost reassurance of that there's people out there in this world that are just super people. You know what I mean? Like, you know, a lot of times you don't see that in every day.
No, media does not cover the super people.
Yeah,
Just
no.
meet people
They cover the
so
others.
nice. I mean, they were back east in
the Midwest,
I was
yeah.
getting emails. Oh, my wife and I are having the boys over. They were so nice. They stayed at our house, and we get up. They made their beds, and I'm thinking, those aren't things you get brownie buns for.
Well, we were getting brownie buns
Guys,
for that.
I don't know what to say because everything was so nice. They say, "You have daughters?" And yes. Get them out of the house. I don't know. I'm like joking. Not really, but yeah, sort of.
They like using that
You
thing.
know what you touched on, Manny, and just briefly was, I think that sense of community. You know, whether it's 1,000 people in the audience or whether it's 20 here when you play Lummis. You know, we talk about maybe 5,000, but maybe only 500 saw your stage. That it's a sense of community that maybe makes you feel good as you go to the girls' school or you go to a high school or you go wherever
Yeah.
you go. Is it touching people's lives and them touching you mutually?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
again, it's like when you see someone, just a smile could light it up, or they just were, you got there and they were kind of, you know, maybe because you never know what people are got going on in their lives, of course, and maybe it could be a staff there, and you saw when they came in and kind of like, all right, and you're there early too because you're setting up, and then they're getting
The grumpy principal.
they're getting the venue ready, or yeah, the grumpy principal.
It's like,
and
you're
also,
gonna
yeah,
turn around
That
in a
happened.
minute.
That's a great example. We had a grumpy principal, and he's looking at us like, "Oh, long hairs.
I'm rolling this
oh
amp
no, they're gonna play for the kids. No." And then he was,
And he was dancing at the
and
end.
then kids reacted, and he saw how we were, you know, interacting with the kids, and then he just was like, "Oh, okay." And then I could see it on his face too after when he was introducing himself. He was almost like a little embarrassed, like, "Man, I kind of judged you guys." It's like, well, I get it, you know.
We're judgeable.
Totally, we can judge the crap out of us, but you know, we wanted to come here if
Yeah.
that was the plan. Why would we be?
yeah.
And
Why
that
would we be at
goes-
elementary school at 8:00 in the morning
That
to
goes
be
into
like,
the
"Rah," you know?
role model.
We didn't go to sleep last night. We just came straight here. You know, none of that. It was- yeah, exactly. Can you smell it on us? No, it's none of that. And so, but then something that for us, being that we've been doing it for a while now, and some of the relationships, the people we've met, we've been really fortunate enough to meet people who, there's a couple different couples that met at a groove session show. That was the first, you know, they met at a groove session
We
show.
saw the meeting.
Saw the love happen, and then over the year, you know, a couple years, months, or whatever,
They get
you see
married.
them, and all of a sudden they're getting married. They're inviting us to play their wedding.
Wow.
Next year they're having a baby. They're introducing
like
to the
a
baby,
handful-
and it's like it's goosebumps because it's like
handful of
you
couples.
feel part of the family. You see community, and then you see everybody else. Like, hey, you know, I remember, you know, just everybody else first meeting each other.
Well,
and,
it's in human nature to be around people. People need people. You know, we're not meant to be alone and you know, secluded and by ourselves. Like, we need that. We need to bounce off energy with each other. And we always say the audience when during a live show is our fourth member because there's something happening there. There's this energy we're pushing out. And we're getting something back, and it could be either they hate it or they love it, or it's something. Sometimes you just can't explain it. It's a high that we
It's
get,
alright,
you know?
dog. It's just alright.
And so yeah, it's in our nature to be a community. It's in our nature to be communal and get together. You know, it's a village. You know, that's why people were having villages back then. And that's
You know, part
so
of our
important.
purpose in asking you to do this presentation, one element is the young people perhaps considering a serious life
Oh, seriously, yeah,
in the arts,
performing,
and
yeah.
as the musicians in particular. You guys were fortunate to find each other. They could be concerned that they won't always find
Right.
Sure,
other
this,
partners
Yeah.
this was a very
who
rare.
are, you know, who are your family
Mm-hmm.
and who have the values you have. I mean, how does that happen? What do we tell them when they say, well, I don't know how to form a band, and who am I gonna play with? You know, how do I know who they are, et cetera, et cetera? You know, I know you touched on it, I think, a little earlier.
Yeah, it's,
What could we share with them?
Yeah.
Be starting with just meeting up, meeting up with other artists. That could be hard, or
Supporting local music.
finding bands, or finding maybe a great songwriter. You enjoy writing songs, but you just don't. You only perform them for a couple of friends or family members, but you don't really know where to go to put that out there, or you want to put together a band, but then again, I mean, same thing. It's kind of like, well, I don't have a sibling or a friend that I know or whatever. Just that, but it's kind of you got to put yourself out there, and it's whether it's going to the open mic night. Maybe it's not even maybe it's not a musical open mic night. Maybe it's a poetry open mic night. But then you just get those juices flowing, talking to people. Having great conversation. You never know what it could lead to, because it could lead to, oh, my brother-in-law just started playing bass and he's looking for someone to play with, and then it could not maybe be the match made in heaven, but it could be someone who they grow together a little bit. But it's like,
Or it starts your network of
the network.
What we're doing right now is not really working, but I have a friend that you may jive with, and it's just like Manny said, you never know, and it is that fear of rejection you have to get over.
And it can be very discouraging when you don't have a band, or it's not moving or doing what you want it to do.
Or,
it feels stagnant. It just feels like it's sitting there, and
Or
you're
you
like,
have- Or you have members that aren't putting in the work.
or that, yeah, someone who's just
Or
they're just
lazy
not they're
about
not
it, and
not
so
the same vision, and then
that's
that's
hard.
kind of you got to either say we're gonna be cool with that, where so and so just shows up and
and
says
then plays the part.
okay, I'm here, or we got to say maybe you should go find another band, because this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to.
Yeah.
This is how we're trying to run this,
And I've
So
heard
it's knowing what you want to do,
and then putting it out there.
and putting it out, and then the other thing I think that I see could be useful, and I think you guys have done it, is for there to be jam situations.
Yes,
Where
there you
people
go.
have a chance to hear people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
check them out, as you
That's
said.
kind of how we ended up together in the end.
It was, yeah.
Absolutely.
That is-
That's exactly.
mutual friends, and then I had a party, and
We were called kind of group sessions, sorta. But
Yeah.
we weren't together. But we had, another extra guitar player.
That was just huge.
it was just
Us
group
two.
session was just these guys, and they
And then
had
we-
sit-in players.
Tons.
You do go around the horn
There
and
you
do
go.
take
Weird,
solos.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Then
I
he had a barbecue,
barbecue,
and one of our mutual friends that was performing with us, a guitar player who played with Sarvin and knew Sarvin really well, he told me, hey, Sarvin's having a barbecue. Remember Sarvin from high school? I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen Sarvin in a long time. He said, let's come over. It's just gonna be all musicians.
Like 4 bass players,
Just
like
eating,
6 guitar
just
players
eating
there.
and
It was
playing.
a ton of people.
Went, and then it was like, it just felt good, and we
We
were like
played
having
for,
a great time.
Played for like an hour and a half, just us.
Yeah, there was a ton. I mean, it was
Yeah.
over 20, 30 different musicians, and then everyone's playing at the same time, different little groups, combos, and then we just said, hey, we should, and we had other musicians playing with us for a couple of months, but it was like, we should try to play together. Let's hang out a little bit, and so it was kind of it was like, because the other guitar player we were playing with was great, but he was in he wanted to do different music, he wanted a different mindset, and then it just, I think off stage, we didn't necessarily mesh as well, and so it was like, just being able to get along on and off stage.
Because there's the 2 hours on stage, but then there's the.
All the hours.
You don't have to talk to each other.
22 hours. Yeah, you're sleeping some of those, but it is that. And then respect respect and communication, I think, is just so important. So important because without that, in any
It's a
relationship,
relationship. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's like love.
Married.
Right? It's like it's like
we're married. We're married.
You break up with your band, you know. It's like if you're breaking up. It's a
And with Sarvin, it was really nice because when the other guitar player left the band, I mean, I'm just the dad at the time. I was trying to manage the band. But when we met with Sarvin, we have goals, and he was like, sir, I'm so about goals. Sarvin's actually a nurse by trade. He went to school to be a nurse, and he was that guy. He was like, I'm on time, I'm clean, I want to do these things. These are things that are just inbred in me from my family from growing up.
That's very true too. Yeah, goal-oriented people are very fun to work with.
This is perfect, and then I just hear these guys, and they get out there giggling, and they're playing music, and I don't want to say just playing music, because it's incredible what they're creating sonically, but to watch it and then see it and feel it, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's just, I was all in at that point. Now I'm really all in, sorry.
You mentioned, making a living, etc. So an aspect of your business is also your merchandise.
The merchandise.
And that has evolved, I take it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's been trial and error with a lot of things.
Just a CD to
Give a little lowdown on the
Yeah, well, I made this.
Just to see.
We've tried many different boxes and apparatuses, but this is our latest one. And it holds. I was like with that cigar box guitar. I had access to a lot of cigar boxes, so I found the perfect ones for that would fit CDs.
Oh.
And so I mounted them. I mounted them within this box, and then everything is kind of self-contained, so you can close it, and it makes being on the road when you don't have that fourth member or an extra member to help you set up stuff. You have to set this up yourself, and being able to cut back time by setting up stuff is key. And so here their mother owns a bead store, and we've been able to make jewelry with some of the stuff. With again going back to branding and what our message is of positive music, we've been able to put that into the merchandise. And so so we have our albums here. This box fully closes down. I mean, it's kind of a sloppy setup right now, but you get the gist,
Yeah. What's your biggest money? Sorry.
It's always music usually.
Music and t-shirts.
And t-shirts, like we didn't pull the t-shirts out, but we have t-shirts.
And so, like, it kind of was.
Yeah, so
It was kind of streaming from like I started breaking some bass strings, so I made bass string bracelets.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That was a good idea.
Or bass
Yeah.
nuts, as they're
So
called.
now I
This was something we learned from Warren Haynes, Santana. They do this with their old strings, and they break them.
so it started with
Yeah,
that.
It started there, and then it was like our family have the jewelry store, so we have a lot of stuff in hand that we can
make, and then
make.
so I
Sarvin knows how to wire
I
wrap.
started getting into it too. And
Bass string bracelets, guitar string
This is all
bracelets.
Sarvin right here. He's putting those together. It takes a lot, but when you get those out there, they wear that and wearing jewelry, coming to the show the
And
next
it's like
time,
it's like
and
that
just seeing it and